Our next talk is on S3 security, the attack and defense by Nitin Sharma, who is a SecOps specialist from Click Software. Nitin Sharma is a cybersecurity researcher, a DevOps professional, and a published author. With over 5 years of experience, Nitin has gained expertise in security automation, cloud security, and technical cyber risks assessments. He is a core member of AWS User Group Delhi NCR and Information Warfare Center. In his free time, Nitin helps out people across the globe at Quora for all their queries around cybersecurity, DevOps, privacy, and data breaches. In this session, Nitin will cover the fundamental aspects for data protection and securing S3 configurations while purely being dedicated to folks who really would like to understand AWS S3 related misconfigurations and exploitations. Please join me in welcoming Nitin to share his experience. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Dolly. I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know if the screen is visible. Dolly, if my screen is visible, could you please let me know?
Yeah, Nathan, your screen is visible. You can go ahead.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for the brief introduction. Hello, everyone. Here we are in the next session for AWS Community Day South Asia, Virtual Edition 2021. I welcome you all on behalf of ACD team and my user group. And let's start with the S3 security. We are going to talk about the various attack and defense ways related to S3. Before starting it, I just wanted to have a put a question here, like, do you know when S3 is born, like S3 security, when it is born? And I'm going to answer this in the presentation itself because it is a very old service. I guess it is the oldest of all the services in AWS. And we are going to talk about all the scenarios, like how you have to secure S3 buckets or SC service, overall resources, and what are the implementations and tactics that you have to measure upon, like how the security team works around S3. And being a part of security fraternity, this is what I do. I mean, this is part of my job, and let's understand it. So going forward to the presentation, I'm going to talk about a brief about myself, a brief introduction to the AWS S3. Then we are going to talk about AWS S3 attack or breach scenarios. Now, there are an n number of scenarios that I would like to discuss in this time span of the presentation, but due to the limit of the presentation, I'm going to talk about only 3 of the scenarios. After that, we are going to talk about a little in threat modeling from security perspective. It is actually a great way of tackling how attackers going to be ruined off from our AWS account or your organization's AWS account. So we are going to discuss around that a brief. Then we are going to talk about threat modeling, AWS S3 from a defense perspective. Like first you are going to prevent it, and during the prevention, what defensive measures you should take to actually secure your AWS S3 resources. Now, apart from that, we are going to take a look about S3 security best practices, like what AWS recommends and how you can follow them all. So let's start. So I'm a cybersecurity and DevSecOps professional, experienced in cloud security, container security, and DevOps research. I also have completed a few certifications related to AWS, for example, AWS Security Specialty, DevOps Engineer Professional. Apart from that, I have worked with securing CI/CD pipelines and then IAC infrastructure as code. So I have obtained similar certifications like Terraform Associate and GitLab Certified Associate. And usually during the risk assessments, the knowledge related to cloud security is beneficial, where I have done CCSK. Apart from that, I have been a part of Blue Team initiative. So I have done CYSA for that. And I have also written a book which got recognized by Book Authority as Best New Docker Books winner. So I'm glad for that. I usually do some running, a half marathon or cycling for fitness because I have to keep my mind refreshed for all the security things, because it's a constant learning and continuous learning job. And I'm going to help out beginners, like I'm doing it right away. helping out beginners in cloud, DevOps, cybersecurity at Quora. So if you have any questions related to security, just keep on it. Now, I have done a few jobs like this was a part of my job where I have to find out the mistakes. Like usually security is all about finding out the risks, threats, vulnerabilities, and measure them. And in case if I have to do that in the S3 perspective, it is all about like talking about the roles, the policies, the ACLs, and this is how it works. But if you will see this image, and if you will say that you are going to apply a principal star policy to an AWS S3 bucket, then it will not be a big mistake. I will say it a blunder, because once you are providing this principal star policy to that S3 bucket, you are going it to make it publicly visible. And we are going to discuss more about things like that in this presentation session. So let's move ahead and talk about a little around S3. This is only a brief introduction because I'm not going to cover everything related to S3. S3 is very vast and it has evolved a lot. So at the start of this presentation, I have asked a very simple question like, do you even know how old is S3 when it is born? It actually born in 15 years back. And the birth date I'm not going to reveal, but I'm going to give you a hint that it was a Pi Day in 2006. Now you have to understand like what is Pi Day and what is the actual exact birth date for AWS S3. Now, moving ahead, S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. There are some terminologies related to S3, and we are going to entertain that very briefly. For example, the first one is S3 bucket, a container for uploaded data which must have a unique name. Now, S3 object, item stored within a bucket. Usually you are getting containers in S3 service where you can upload data. This data could be any kind of file. And the whole S3 service will depict the storage type as object storage. Now, you might have heard about the block storage or like file system storage terms. So this is an object storage service, and S3 stands for Simple Storage Service. And you have to put the data which is in object storage type, for example, PDF files, XML files, .jar files, things like that into the S3 bucket. And those files that you are putting in the S3 service are termed as S3 object. So bucket is synonymous to folder, and S3 object is the key, which is the file actually that you are going to store. Now, this file can be identified with the help of a key and a version ID. It depends whether you have enabled the versioning or not, but it's up to you. If there is any requirement for you, then you can enable the versioning. The other aspect is S3 policy. It is a JSON-based access control statement by which you are going to govern which folks, like which IAM user role group, are going to have the access to that particular bucket or object. So you have to write it down in the JSON-based roles, and this is called S3 policy. Now, the next is S3 bucket ACLs. S3 bucket ACLs are sub-resources that's attached to every S3 bucket and object. Usually they are utilized for S3 objects only. So if you have to distinguish between the various object access, then you will be going to define the bucket ACLs. Like there should be access requests like only read should be provided or write should be prohibited. So this is one kind of a policy. Or read should be provided and write should be provided. That could be a public access that should be prohibited, but in some cases related to the website, static website images that you are going to store it is allowed. So it is one example. It defines which AWS accounts or groups are granted access and the type of access. Now, when you create a bucket or an object, Amazon S3 creates a default ACL. So AWS has already determined like by default, there should be a sense of security with AWS S3. And right now it has evolved a lot. Like there are 5 policies already attached to, there are 5 controls already attached to AWS S3, like block public access and so on. And policy will not be there. So it defines which AWS accounts or groups are granted access and the type of access. When you create a bucket or an object, Amazon S3 creates a default ACL that grants the resource owner full control over the resource. Next, going ahead. Now you can see a brief image about 2021 leaky bucket breaches. in this leaky bucket image, like you can see a graph, and I would like to entertain it a little bit on the main site as well. So here is the site, and you can see, let me refresh it a little so that we can go and dive into this graph. So in this graph, what we are going to discuss about is, yes, here it is. In Feb, we have gone through a lot of breaches in 2021 itself, and we can see here we are in October region. So there had been a breaches like Thingiverse, Condenser, Amon, AWS, and all these breaches are highlighting or diversifying kind of AWS S3 use cases only. Like this whole complete AWS S3 scenario is related to AWS leaky buckets only. So you can see there are 30 plus breaches in this scenario. So we can see here, Meet Mindful is the first breach that we have entertained in January, like CHS Consulting, Meet Mindful. And in last 10 days or 11 days, we had some breaches like Thingiverse, Plug and Play Ventures, Condenser, Amon, and so on. So if you will click here in this graph, you can see that Thingiverse, a website dedicated to sharing user-created digital design files, reportedly leaks a 36 GB backup file that contains 228,000 unique email addresses. One second, can you give me a little bit time? I think someone is calling. Sorry for the delay. Let's get back to it. So here we were discussing about the Thingiverse breach. So Thingiverse breach, it has happened. A website dedicated to sharing created digital design files reportedly leaks a 36 GB backup file that contains 228,000 unique email addresses and other PII information. The date revealed is October 11, 2021, and the date discovered is 13/10/2020. Now you can see here that data exposed contains a 36 GB backup file with 228,000 unique email addresses and other PII. Now, the interesting fact or the fun fact here is the revealed date is October 11, while the data discovered date is 13/10. There has been a 20 days around of gap. And this is what happens in most of the security incidents. And this is the minimum gap that we are going to have entertained here, but it might be years or so, months, weeks, years, and so on. So it depends on the incident. So a lot of breaches related to similar services like S3 buckets you have seen here, but there are 30 plus scenarios here that are probably related to the AWS S3 only, and year has not ended yet. Like it's 2021 until October, and we have November and December left, and God knows like what all other incidents we can see here. So let's go back to our presentation. So here we have seen that a lot of incidents or breaches have happened. The reason we are going to discuss moving forward in this presentation, but if you have created a little slight insight into a pie chart, what we can see here is AWS S3 incidents in 2021 so far are 32 in number, while others related to, like, for example, GitLab, GCP, Bitbucket are contributing a very less uh, in with respect to what AWS S3 incidents are contributing in the breaches list that we have seen previously. Now, let's talk about a few scenarios. For example, scenario one we are going to understand is misconfigured S3 bucket. And this is the most basic scenario. Like, for example, you have provided principal S3 principal star and action will be S3 star in the S3 bucket policy. So that is a blunder that we have already discussed previously. And one of the cases where it happened is Coninsa breach that was also present in the previous graph. So over 100,000 people's personal information exposed in Colombian real estate company data breach. There was a cyber research team, Wiz Cases security team, who has found this in the real estate development firm Coninsa. And what they found is like names, photos, addresses, and many more information has been there in the breach S3 bucket. Their team has estimated that the breach affected over 100,000 people. There was no need for a password or login credentials to see this information, and the data was not encrypted even. So there as a CIA breach, like confidentiality, integrity, and availability, all have been compromised because the data was not encrypted. There was no password, no login credentials, and this happens. It's not very old. September 23, 2021, last month only. Then what has happened is there is more information provided here, like the company specializes in architecture, engineering, construction, and real estate services, and serves both individuals and companies in various sectors in Colombia, including housing, commerce, industry. So there has been a lot that has been compromised. Now, talking specifically, this has been caused by the misconfiguration of an AWS S3 bucket that contained over 5.5 million files, totaling over 1 TB of data. We reached out, the hackers team, the WestK security team reached out to the company and did not have received a reply so far. So it was on September 23rd, but maybe now they have responded. It depends in case to case, like specific cases. The scenario 2 we are going to discuss here is when someone has committed the GitHub code and AWS access keys associated with S3 permissions to customer bucket. So what will happen is once a developer is working on some feature request, maybe some sort of development scenario, and in their GitHub repo, they might have put the credentials for the service accesses, and then those credentials are being committed to the repository or maybe the EC2 instance. So once the user is able to get into the repository, okay, he can gather the stolen credentials, gather the instance credentials from there. Now, what the malicious users will do is they will take account of those credentials and see what they can access. Let's say with the stolen credentials, they are able to access the workload or EC2 VM in the AWS VPCs in respective AWS account. What they will do is directly they will try to get into the VMs itself. Now, once they are able to access the VMs, they will do pivoting. It's a technique where they are trying to access another EC2 instances in the VM itself. And then what they will do is they will try to find out which VM is having the access role permissions for accessing the S3 bucket. So it's not a direct trick to get access to the AWS S3 like in the previous scenario, but there is some sort of engineering requires, there is some sort of work that they have to do, and then when they are able to get the access to that particular VM, they are able to access the S3 bucket. So how malicious user has done this? They scours the GitHub for user credentials that developer sometimes leaves there. Now they uses the stolen credentials to breach into an existing workload or maybe create a rogue workload within the target VPC or security group. They logs into the rogue VM, then performs lateral movement. By pivoting, they have performed the lateral movement and gets to the VM with access to AWS S3. Now, has access to AWS S3 buckets, objects, and performs data exfiltration breach. So this is how the data breach happens in this scenario. Now let's get back to the next scenario. But before that, let's see here. Let's say you have committed a code to the GitHub repository that is already containing an AWS access keys. Then how it works with associated S3 permissions, like whether you are going to be notified by AWS or something like that, if AWS takes care about its customers or not. So this is actually there. AWS takes care of its customers with the help of a notification, and this is not being explicitly set. Like AWS is scanning all the access keys or GitHub repos for the AWS access keys to be there. Okay. What it will do is in less than or similar to 60 seconds, it will shoot an email. This email will be to the premises enterprises AWS email, and this will tell you that we have become aware that this access key belonging to IAM user this along with the corresponding secret keys publicly available online. Now, this is not only the work AWS is doing, it is first notifying you in less than or similar to 60 seconds that your AWS key belonging to your account is publicized. It's available publicly online. And the second thing they will do is to protect it, they will uh, uh, they will actually apply an IAM policy, which is AWS compromised key quarantine. This policy is having specific set of permissions as a deny action. And these permissions will be there. And once these permissions will be attached to this particular IAM group, user, or role, this key will become ineffective to do any kind of task. So this is how AWS helps you out without any kind of hassle or like on your side. But one second, it's only about 60 seconds interval. What about if someone who is having a malicious intent found that particular key before 60 seconds, create another user, and then go against your AWS account to get another access keys that are being created from your AWS account itself ethically, not via the GitHub code? So there is a level of risk that you have to ascertain and you have to manage on your own. So this is about the second scenario. Now let's talk about the third scenario, which is a little bit complex, but I have included it because of the ransomware scenarios that are going on. So there is a specific ransomware scenario in S3 also. For example, attackers encrypting S3 buckets in victim AWS account with their own KMS key. Now, what the attackers are doing, let's understand this in a bit detail. Attacker creates a KMS key in their own personal AWS account or another compromised account, because to be on safer side, why to use their own AWS account? So they will have already a compromised account. They have created a KMS key. KMS is key management service in AWS. With that KMS key and they have provided the world access to use that KMS key for encryption. Okay, so anybody can use that particular KMS key for encrypting. Now, attacker identifies a target S3 bucket and gains right level access to it. For example, previously also the attacker has got the access for S3 bucket, so it is a level up for him. Here he is having already an access to the target S3 bucket, which is right level access. Now, attacker checks the configuration of the bucket to determine if it is able to be targeted by ransomware. Okay, there is a specific level of permission set that needs to be there for an attacker to change. Mostly it will be like write permissions to that particular bucket. And after that, or the change policy or bucket ACLs related permissions, or these kind of permissions will be required for the attacker to be targeted by ransomware. Now, attacker uses the AWS API to replace each object in bucket with a new copy of itself. This copy of itself will be the encrypted one with the KMS key that he has generated first. So what attacker is doing is he is replacing all the objects in the AWS bucket with another copy of the objects that are encrypted ones. After that, attacker will schedule the deletion of the KMS key and uploads a final file such as ransom.node.txt without encryption in order to notify the customer or the organization for that AWS S3 account, such that they will know that yes, your data is encrypted. Now you have to pay the ransom, and it is a kind of a ransomware attack scenario. So this is a bit more complex scenario, but I have tried to explain it in simple words. This is how ransomware analogy works, that your data got encrypted and then they will ask for the ransom to pay in Bitcoin mostly. Similar to this, there could be n number of scenarios. Like we have discussed only 3 scenarios. There could be n different such scenarios to understand and then tackle the AWS S3 attackers. Hence, an efficient way to address the attacker concerns is needed. And that efficient way is threat modeling. I don't know whether you are aware of threat modeling or you are using in your organization the threat modeling, but we are going to discuss about it a little brief. So, introduction to threat modeling. Threat is any circumstance or event with the potential to harm an information system through unauthorized access, destruction, disclosure, modification of data, and/or denial of service. This is an NIST-based definition, National Institute of Standards and Technology, US. Any circumstance or event with the potential to harm an information system through unauthorized access, like this access is not required or being provided, but it is unauthorized, then destruction, then disclosure, modification of data, and/or denial of service. Now, core steps for threat modeling will be, first of all, if your organization is following an SDLC, then SDLC has some 7 or 8 phases, very high level. And there is a design phase, and in design time activity, that is in the design phase, this threat modeling needs to be done. Now, this threat modeling will have identify assets, actors, entry points, components, use cases, and trust levels, and include these in a design diagram. This is the first step. The second step is identify a list of threats, like what all the threats are there. So you have to first identify the assets, like which resources are there to be in the design diagram. Then you have to identify the list of threats, like what agents can maliciously attack the resources. Then per threat, very specific, per threat, identify mitigations, which may include security control implementation. For example, you have X threat for Y number of resources. So all the access that you have to map it to all the Y number of resources. And then individual X you have identified, you have to take a security control and put it over there. So this is how it works. Now, the last step will be create and review a risk matrix to determine if the threat is adequately mitigated. Like you have to do some kind of testing or validation. And we are going to see this in the terms of S3. So let's go ahead. Before moving ahead with threat modeling again, there is a specific framework that has been developed for S3 only, very specific cases for S3 only. So this framework is called MITRE ATT&CK framework. It has different versions for like OS hardening, for studying the TTPs actually. TTP stand for tactics, technology, and procedure. So for all study of the TTPs, there has been a MITRE ATT&CK matrix for AWS S3, as you can see on your screen. So usually for initial access, execution, and persistence, the first 3 levels of attack matrix, there is not much information related to the attackers. But for privilege escalation, for example, someone got access by modifying, deleting important object tags. For example, there was a tag for which Lambda function is taking care. For example, there is a tag, let's say HR department, and the Lambda function is designed or developed to take care of all the buckets regarding HR department, so that if they will get compromised, the policy will take action. But in case if that tag is removed, there could be a scenario where privilege escalation could be done. Reduce bucket security by deleting the bucket policy. Maybe someone will delete the bucket policy, so on. And defense evasion will be another kind of thing where exfiltrate data via ungoverned S3 endpoint. Maybe some resource got loosened up where there is an S3 endpoint provided, and that could be publicly accessible. Credential access will be least scenario here, least common scenario. Discovery will be recon of AWS root account emails using email ACL grantee feature, and so on. Lateral movement, collection, exfiltration, impact, all these scenarios are there. The first 3 are limited ones. There might be cases, but that are not usual ones. So these are the phases that we have to map on with the S3 bucket threads. So let's discuss around. It's a data flow diagram here, as you can see, and it's a very vast data flow diagram. Like there is not a single scenario in S3 bucket to secure it. There could be n number of different scenarios, as we have discussed previously. So the dependency of securing S3 bucket will not rely on only the S3 policy, or like most of the organization, what they will think, or what the team or DevOps team will think, that they have applied the policy, and that has been approved by security team, and now we are free. Attackers will not have any kind of insights related to the S3 attack. But this is not the case. Overall CI/CD pipeline monitoring, continuous monitoring, and with respect to overall security governance as well, is required to actually secure any kind of data which is stored in the Amazon S3 buckets. So for example, there is a boundary. All the red lines here define the boundaries. For example, you have provided SCP IAM policies here with the red dot that I'm showing on the screen. There could be perimeter security. This could be any kind of firewall or something where VPC endpoint will be prevented. There could be SCP policies for AWS services as well, object related APIs as well. There could be account block policies so that particular S3 control public endpoints could not be accessed, things like that. And this is very vast. So this is a threat model for AWS S3 prepared by Trust on Cloud. And it is an open source CC Creative Commons licensed SA 4.0. So you can also utilize this. And this document is completely available as an open source over the internet. So let's see how this threat modeling works. So threat modeling in AWS S3 works as you have to pick one feature of S3 involved in your data flow diagram. So we have talked about SSDLC, Secure Software Development Lifecycle, in which there is a design time phase, maybe phase 3 or 4, according to your SDLC, what you follow in your organization. You have to pick one feature of S3 which is involved in their architecture, in your architecture or data flow diagram. Second is identify associated IAM bucket actions. Third is create threat list and map it to MITRE ATT&CK, what we have seen previously. Fourth is set security control objectives and priorities. What exact control you can put so that these attackers could not maliciously exploit your AWS S3 bucket data. And the last phase is testing and validation. So let's take a look in each of the steps. The first step is pick one feature of S3 involved in your data flow diagram. So let's say I have chosen one feature which is as object upload or download. So with this feature, this is a very basic feature. Like everybody knows that object upload and download is required if there is any application that you are going to develop. So you can upload and download virtually any number of objects to an external S3 bucket that you are authorized to. So I have purposefully put this word here that you are authorized to. Now, you might can say that I have allowed an S3 star policy to all my developers and they are allowed to do it. So that is not a security best practice at all. So you have to selectively add some tags or kind of use a kind of strategy so that not everybody is having the access to upload or download S3 bucket. Once you have decided about this, then this threat model you can apply over there. So we have pick one feature of S3. Now, second is identify associated IAM bucket actions. Now, for the S3 upload and download feature, I have identified 3 actions for the sake of like this demonstration, but you might have a little bit different background. So you can have to identify actions related to that. So first action is retrieves an object from Amazon S3. So someone is downloading it. Adds an object to a bucket. Someone is uploading an object. Sets the access control list permissions for an object. So this could be another use case that I have added here, which will be like setting the access control list, ACL permissions for the object, like who can upload, who can download, things like that. So you must have right ACP access control policy permission to set the ACL of an object. So if you are going to translate it into the AWS IAM world, how you are going to have it? It is like S3 get object, S3 put object, and S3 put object ACL. Now we have done 2 steps, I guess, so far for threat modeling AWS S3. Let's go on to the next step. Now create threat list and map it to MITRE ATT&CK. So we have already analyzed MITRE ATT&CK framework, and we have to prepare a threat list like this. For example, exfiltrate your data hosted on an external bucket by using.
Nitin, sorry for the interruption. Are you sharing something else? Because we are seeing just the PPT with the email on it.
One second. I'm already, oh my God. I'm already sharing my screen. It's showing me stop screen. Okay, I will stop screen share and I will again go ahead to share the screen. 1 second. Share screen. Here it is, entire screen. Yes, so I might have covered a lot but the screen share was not there. So from which slide should I start a game?
I'm not quite sure from where the screen was different, but I think we are also a little short on time. So if you could use up the next 5 minutes, that would be great.
Okay. Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So I have shared this. In 5 minutes, I have to cover it. Okay, great. 1 second. Wrong button. Present this. So I'm going to cover it a little bit at a fast pace. So AWS S3, we have discussed about scenario 1 and scenario 2, where the first case is misconfigured S3 bucket with customer data. So there has been a compromise due to 100,000 personal data information exposed. Now the second thing will be a GitHub code committed with AWS access keys associated with S3 permissions to customer bucket. And this is all because of someone has committed the access keys to GitHub repo, and those credentials got stolen. And
Yeah, I
once
think
the
it is just from that email screen where you showed the email.
Okay, this one.
Yeah, from after this.
Okay, great. So the ransomware scenarios we have talked about, where attacker creates a KMS key in their own personal AWS account. Then attacker identifies a target S3 bucket and gains right level access to it. Then attacker checks the bucket configuration if he can add any kind of additional policy. If it is so, then he will replace all the bucket objects with the encrypted KMS key objects. Now, what attacker will do is it will schedule the deletion of KMS key and put a file as ransom node.txt without encryption. So once the period is over for that particular KMS key deletion, the key will be deleted and all the data will be lost. So this is a kind of S3 ransomware scenario. Now there could be n number of scenarios, and the efficient way to address the attacker concerns is threat modeling. So threat is any circumstance or event with the potential to harm an information system through unauthorized access, restriction, disclosure, modification of data, or denial of service. This is a design time activity. If your organization is following any secure software development lifecycle, so this is a design time activity. So here you have identify assets, actors, entry points, components. The first you have to identify the resources. Then you have to create a list of threats against those resources. Then per threat, you have to identify mitigations, which may include security control implementation. And then you have to review and test that all the controls are in place or not. So this is the MITRE ATT&CK matrix for AWS S3, where initial access, execution, persistence, there should not be any kind of scenario for S3, while for privilege escalation, defense evasion, discovery, lateral movement, collection, exploitation, and impact, there is kind of certain scenarios that we are going to discuss. Now, this is a data flow diagram for all the kind of AWS S3 resources, where in red you can see here what kind of control needs to be put on there. For example, object ACL or version ACL CMK policy, so that no other person who is having the KMS key policy for this particular bucket will be able to access it. Similarly, you can have secure control policies for organization. If your AWS account is part of IAM organization, so any entity from account A will not be able to access any entity from account B. And there are numerous cases. So a few cases we are going to cover here is, for threat modeling, pick one feature of S3, then identify associated IAM or bucket actions, create threat list and map it to MITRE ATT&CK, what we have seen previously, then set security control objectives and priorities, then testing and validation. Now, threat modeling is pick one feature of S3. So I have taken one feature as object upload or download. Now I'm going to identify what actions are associated to object upload or download. So retrieving an object or uploading an object, and then changing the access control permissions. And these are the relevant IAM permissions. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check about what are the threats to this particular feature. Like someone who is not allowed is going to download something, that is a threat to me. Someone who is not allowed to upload something and he is a non-authenticated user and still he is able to do it, that is a threat. So there are numerous cases here. Like first one is exfiltrate your data hosted on an external bucket by using of a compromised IAM access from internet. And then there are some sort of scores that you can provide. So In the threat model, it's been defined like medium risk or low risk or high risk. This is NIST methodology of estimating the risk level. So once you have identified the threat, so per threat you have to check the access controls, and then you have to map it to MITRE ATT&CK framework. So for this is the description, like IAM credentials can be compromised and user is able to download your object from an external bucket. For this, there could be security controls that you have to put in place. Now, security controls could be of three types: directive, preventive, and detective. So directive controls are something that organizations ISMS policy will govern. Like there is a specific set of policies your organization will follow, and which is why this should be in place. Preventative, where you have to prevent the attacker to get access to your bucket, to download something, to upload something. Detective is something an attacker is doing. You could get a notification over it. You could get an email or Slack notification kind of thing. So the controls here I have here in the image in the session: identify and ensure the protection all external buckets hosting your object is a high priority control. Like no one should be able to access the AWS S3 buckets without any ownership concerns, or there should be an assured protection. So this is a high control, and this is a directive associated control, high priority directive control. Similarly, you could have enforced good coding practice, S3 with Amazon GuardDuty and Macie, encrypt or tokenize critical data. So these are a set of controls that you have to put on your S3 buckets. Now, the first one we have seen is identify and ensure the protection all external buckets hosting your objects. Now, that is just an kind of mapping, but now you have to check and validate it. So you have to go against a kind of test cases. So those test cases could be, for example, this one: request the list of all authorized external buckets authorized to host your objects, their respective owners. You should have an inventory of all the things in the S3. You should have all the owners identified, and then you have to check whether they are able to access it, and anyone else from that particular list is not able to access it. Similarly, there could be other controls like allow only authorized ACL on objects for buckets you don't control. So anyone who is having an access denied should not be able to put an ACL on it, on the object. Now make a call to an unauthorized bucket to see that whether it is accessible or not. Request the mechanisms ensuring all data are scanned for proper data classification before upload to an external bucket are configured. Its records of execution for all object uploads flow, and plan to move any older object upload flows. So this should be there. Now, there could be different policies like best practices that AWS recommends. These could be preventative or detective. So corrective policies and no public access, least privilege access, use of IAM rules to access S3 buckets, enable MFA delete, encryption at rest, transit, object loss, object lock. These are the preventative measures. While for monitoring and auditing, there could be like identify and audit all S3 buckets, monitoring S3 bucket API calls. There is one feature related to MFA delete. That is a preventative feature. Here we have covered. For detective, that could be server access logging. Like someone has deleted and you want to see who has done the same. So server access logging you can enable. Then CloudTrail, you have to record S3 data events, and AWS config to see any kind of configuration changes over S3. Macie to protect sensitive information. AWS Macie is a complete suite of AWS S3 security. So if you have Macie enabled, I don't think you need anything else for that. Macie and GuardDuty collectively, along with config, can enable a system for that. Yes, so here I am done. Thank you. Over to you, Faisal.
All right. Thank you, Nitin, for the remarkable session. That was quite fascinating. So we have opened the stage for Q&A. Let's see if the audience has any questions. Okay, I have one question from the audience. What is the best to store the AWS credentials so that we can use it in Git CI/CD? Just to interrupt in between, you're on mute. Can you
Yeah.
please unmute?
Yes. So you might consider any kind of vault system that could be in AWS scenarios, it could be Secrets Manager. For GitHub, it could be GitHub Secrets, and it could be HashiCorp Vault even. You could have different kinds of scenarios, but it depends like what is the exact purpose for which you want to put the secrets. For example, I won't recommend to have IAM credentials to be put in Secrets Manager. I will recommend it to be in HashiCorp Vault and then integrate it to your pipeline. So it depends what exact scenario is there. Does
All
it answer
right,
the
moving
question?
on to the next question. Yes.
Okay.
So moving on to the next question. How can we use S3 for app development?
Okay. For app development, what one can do is one can simply host a website with static website hosting with S3 buckets. Like all the static content could be stored in the S3, and then you could have any EC2 instance, or it depends on your scenario. Like if you have to scale it, you can use ECR for all the backend stuff. So this is the way you can use S3 bucket for a website or web app kind of development. And all the resources related to a web application, you can store it for the processing into the S3 bucket itself.
Okay, amazing answer. So actually we have a lot of questions from our attendees for you. So moving on to the next question. Can
Yes.
any thread scanning be done on S3?
Thread scanning. Okay, you are asking about the tool, so that how you can scan the threads related to S3. So there is a tool by Scale Cloud or Scale Security something. The name of the tool is S3 Audit. So this is a terminal-based tool that you can download, and you can run it with provided access keys and secret access key with minimal permission. There is a requisite permission level required for that particular access key. And with the S3 audit, you can check what all the access permissions are there. And I'm telling this because this is an open source tool, so that you can run it anyway. Now, the other thing you can do, and I would recommend, will be using AWS Macie. So Macie will provide you all the security strategies that S3 audit will also do, but you will have a dashboard, overall dashboard with in the AWS account itself. Macie will be a region specific region constructed service, and you can use Macie plus GuardDuty to get information about all the threats related to S3.
All right, one more question. Is it a
Yes.
good idea to keep IAM creds in environmental variable?
No, not at all. Please do not put it. Please put it in kind of a vault, and do not use IAM credentials. Use IAM roles or instances, or you can use assume role, which is very time specific, like session specific credentials, temporary credentials we are going to use, that is okay. But in case we are going to use IAM credentials in environment variables, I wouldn't recommend it, being as part of security fraternity and working every day.
Okay, another question. Why
Yes.
AWS being in top breach 56%? What are the steps we need to improve our security mechanism?
Okay.
Any
Yes.
idea of restricting the creation of S3 buckets at customer level itself?
Yes, you can do that, but why to give access customers to an organization's S3 bucket? This is little strange. Like, you should have the control. Being an organization, you should have the control, like what all S3 buckets should be created and how they are creating it. That should be automated. Now, coming to this DFD data flow diagram here, if you want to actually understand like how AWS S3 can be security can be improved. So there is one second. There is a threat model PDF which has been having 163 pages. Like this is more than enough covering every scenario that you are having. If you are able to see my screen, one second. Are you able to see my screen? Let me share my screen again.
Not yet.
Share screen. Yes. So if you are able to see my screen now, there is a PDF which is available in open source. This is threat model for Amazon Simple Storage Service. This is having 163 pages. And whatever the security mechanism that you want to employ in your AWS account, you will have all the details here. And this is available for free. Isn't it amazing? I mean, I feel it as a really fascinating thing because every use case, most of the use case has been covered in this particular document. So it's available on Trust on Cloud. It's by Trust on Cloud that we have seen threat model for AWS S3, and it will cover most of the scenarios. Now, I don't recommend to give the control to customer for creation of S3 buckets. Like that should be governed by your organization itself. And the third point will be enable AWS Macie and AWS GuardDuty along with CloudTrail with S3 data events. So these 3 points, if you will consider, you can have better security strategy for your AWS S3.
Thank you so much, Nitin, for the remarkable session and answering all the questions our audience had.
Build. Go. Build. Go. Build. Go. Build. Go build. Go build. There is no compression algorithm for experience. Def and test are the most important workloads. Dance like nobody's watching. 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 Encrypt like everyone is.